Hi, welcome to the Heart of New York show. This is going to be one of the most incredible shows that you're going to watch this year because the Heart of New York show was the first one to break this story. And we got so much to cover, so I'm going to get right into it. I want to welcome Francesca Amato here today. Okay, she represents a nonprofit that has to be addressed to, has to be heard from, has to be put out there because it's so important. It's so it just blows my mind to think about child trafficking. Okay, which is what she has gotten very much involved with, and she has believed that it goes through the courts. Okay, and that's where the problem starts. This is big. And now she recently has presented this in front of Congress. So why don't you tell the audience?
Well, first, I want to thank you so much for having me back. And yes, Heart of New York TV was the first to break this story. Advocates, frontline advocates like myself, have been basically raising public awareness for several years now, discussing the fact that the courts are trafficking our children. And it's a shocking thing for people to hear. But a couple of months ago, when you guys had me on the first time, we were able to break the story that it is actually coming through the gateway is the family court. Shocking. And as advocates, I court watch courts all over the country. My nonprofit is Punished for Protecting Incorporated. And I court watch judges all over the country, and I could not get over what I was witnessing from my own story from 12 years ago, that they would continue to endanger children and place them at risk. And it works through an entire system: family court, CPS, foster care, forced adoption, real estate fraud, medical kidnapping, contracts with the hospitals. It's just unbelievable. So we have broken the story, and we've actually tied it all together and shown you the chain of command. People don't understand. Look at all the child trafficking that is being exposed now, from Epstein and through all these different things that are happening that we're seeing in the news. However, where do you think these children are coming from? People say, oh, well, some man went into a Walmart and just snatched somebody's child. Not that simple. I wish it was that simple.
Isn't that something?
So yeah, it's coming.
Now, do you mean that it comes from wealthy families too?
Oh yeah,
happens?
nobody is exempt. It doesn't matter if the families are poor families. It doesn't matter if it's educated or uneducated families. Families that are multimillionaires are suffering. I have families that have lost full buildings, that own buildings in New York City, to this system. So trafficking.
What do you mean by that? That own buildings that have lost to this system? You mean they had their kids vanish? Or?
So now we have to remember that trafficking is not just sex trafficking, although this is the biggest issue that we see.
Okay.
It's facing our nation right now like never before. We're seeing pedophilia just being exposed everywhere. It's mind-blowing and heartbreaking. But trafficking is moving a person, whether it be a child, an adult, or an elderly, from one place to another by force. Think about that. That's trafficking, and people have been deceived for so long. We thought that we can trust these courts, and the truth of the matter is that we cannot. We tied it all together through what we did is for the children education panel, which is founded by my boyfriend Robert Slavin. We sat before in the congressional hearing room in the Longworth building.
You were right there.
We were right there, and we did a 5-panel education team called the Child Trafficking Briefing, and we tied together. We even had a pediatrician on the panel. We had David Jose. He's a viral sensation advocate from Arizona. He tied all the legal matter together and exposed the fact that the court itself is a fraud. It is complete fraud. Okay, and that is so scary to know that this has gone on for decades. The judges are administrators. It just goes on, and I won't be able to give all that right now. Obviously, we are limited for time. But the important thing is to know that if you go to my YouTube channel, Punished, the number 4 Protecting, you can watch the congressional briefing that we did at the Longworth building in Washington, D.C. on September 9th. That will explain, with the panel of us, that will explain to you how it is a fraud and how we put Congress on verbal notice, and we put them on verbal notice to let them know that we want this system abolished and we want the actors arrested. That would be the only legal recourse for all the families.
So they could go on YouTube. It's Punished for Protecting on
Yes.
YouTube and get all this information also.
They can watch the briefing there. Yeah.
Okay, now it sounds like all this corruption's coming from the top. So are we talking about money?
We're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars.
No,
Okay, and we're talking about children being sold for sex. There's just so much involved in it. The money, and I talked about this last time with Angela. The money. Let's leave the child prostitution part out of it for a moment. The incentives, the financial incentives, are from all kinds of funding. So they're coming up with different things. The president just signed another executive order. To me, that doesn't help at all. We want to get if the system's illegal, we don't want to move funnel money from one place to another and other types of incentives and still keep them in control. That doesn't make any sense. We want to get rid of it completely and arrest the bad actors. And that would be under Title 18, Section 242. They're not supposed to be doing what they're doing, and it's actually tyranny. This is treason on American soil. And we explain that. I actually go a little more in depth in the child trafficking briefing, where I talk about the fact that there is no such thing as a licensed attorney. You guys can all look that up. I would ask you to look it up yourself. If we've been fooled on that alone, what else have we been fooled by? This sophisticated system.
So you're saying is the way to start is identifying where the problem is and going in and arresting these people?
Absolutely.
Just like that.
There would be, how do you have a justice system that is this corrupt? How do you have a justice system that the foundation has fallen?
And how come they're not doing that now?
Because we have put them on notice verbally, and this is where we need. This is
Put
where,
who on
where we need.
notice?
We put Congress on notice verbally.
Okay.
And we put Congress on notice through congressional affidavits sworn under oath by the families. They're coming in the thousands and thousands, and this is where we need America's help. We need your help, and this is how you do it. You go to punishtheNumber4beingaparent.com. Send a contact form to us. We will send you the congressional affidavit. When you fill that out, we're going to give you an address to mail it to. I am going to go to Congress with a forklift if I have to, bringing all of them to Congress and presenting them, putting them on notice, under oath and on record, which we have already done. They've come in the thousands, but now we're going to do it together. We want to show America just how many have come in.
Incredible,
this is
incredible. So how would you say to the people out there, and we're going to be reaching many, many millions of people out there in the metropolitan area and further, and on YouTube, all over the place. What do you do that you could tell them that helps individual families?
So individual families, if you go to the website, you can go to the consultations area. I'm actually going to be doing consultations. There should be a deadline around November 1st, maybe a little thereafter, because of the work that we're doing right now. And you can have an individual consultation with me, whereby I do a full timeline, and you will put that also under oath, and you would present that into your case file while we are navigating through the system as it stands now. But we have more good news. We have something called whodoc.info. So you guys write this down, whodoc.info, where an award was won through arbitration, which frees all Americans that opt in.
How do you spell that?
Hudok, Harry, umbrella, doll, octopus, king.info, and you can see right on there the opt-in, and in the opt-in you would fill it out. It's very simple, and the mailing address is there for you. This is an arbitration award that was won. It's non-negotiable. The federal government cannot appeal it. This is to free all Americans that opt in, and you have a very limited time to do that, so get on there and please do that as well. These are two huge breakthroughs. It's Occupy Congress, which was the congressional briefing that we did for the children, and also whodoc.info, which is Philip Hudock, that won the award, and when he won it for all Americans that opt in. You have to opt in, and you have to wait for it. Don't just think you're free until you get it in your hands. I just want to let that be known.
I hope you wrote that down, and there's more ways you could find out about this, because not only is she a very strong advocate, has been in front of Congress and has spent the last 12 years of her life on this, you are also a best-selling author. Well, you got to tell them about the books and how they can get the books, and they can read up and study this more, because we're talking about a serious thing here.
So a lot of families thought that when people lost their children that it went to a bad family. It was because they were some kind of a bad family. And I believe that my book became a bestseller twice last year is because they realized that all these families came out of the woodwork saying, I too am a very good family, clean background, and I didn't lose my child. I knew right where my child was when the child was stolen. And so it became a bestseller, like I said, twice last year. And then I ended up getting the cover of Published magazine and a huge centerpiece story regarding my story with the Ulster County Family Court and what they did to me and my son, which I did win, by the way. My son is protected now, and thank God safe. But because I was a whistleblower, I was retaliated against. So the book is punished for protecting the injustice system of family court, and you can get that on Amazon or I think.
And how is your son fully protected? How did
He's back with me. He's been back with me. It was about 8 months that the child was removed.
Wow.
And that's all in the book, which would be better for the audience to just kind of read that in the book.
Get the book.
Get the book. And it's very inspirational, too, where people have very strong faith and how God moved throughout the whole process and how God is moving now. God is moving now mightily.
How is God moving now?
The congressional briefing was absolutely off the charts. Major breakthrough to be able to put Congress back in its place, because you see, we are the correct heir to Congress. We are the boss, okay? Not them. They have put us like subservient to these different positions of quote unquote power, which is pseudo power. So these judges are administrators, and families go in and they're literally wreaked havoc upon. I'm an ADA advocate too, which is American Disability Act. Therefore, every family that has suffered harm from this system has had their ADA violated, whether or not you've been diagnosed with any kind of a disability, because it automatically will cause you and your children post-traumatic stress syndrome. They used to call it post-traumatic stress, PTSD, post-traumatic stress, which was like a disability that actually you were born with. You were not born with it. It's from their abuse. Okay, it's from their abuse that causes you to have these traumas, which causes literally lifetime brain issues and all kinds of emotional and physical things that happen to the body and to the brain. And that's one thing that I stand in support of it with families when I go to court with them to protect them.
That's something you don't think about it. I mean, for a family to go through something like this must be so horrific. So mind-boggling. What kind of help can they get?
So I do go to court with them as an accommodation. The courts, most of the fake courts anyway, they're not real, but most of the courts do not accommodate families. They only will accommodate with things like a wheelchair. When they think of ADA, they think of wheelchair, and make sure there's a ramp, but there are emotional disabilities that are caused by the traumas associated with what they did to your family, and there's no attorney or bar member that will take these cases as injury cases. But they'll take, if were hit and run, or if a drunk driver hits you, it's an injury case. Well, these are injuries. These are unbelievable amounts of injuries that actually take years off of the children's lives, according to ACE research and Saunders and all the different social science research. So with that being said, who is there to recompense back to the families all the violations that continue to happen within these court cases?
You know, since the last time I talked to you and hearing you again now and seeing all that you're doing and all the time and energy it's taking, and this is a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So does that mean, are you like the normal nonprofits that have a tremendous salary?
So I have zero salary. I literally gave
zero salary.
I gave up my job 3 years ago to work for the families. We get social media attacked all the time, so they do everything they can to keep any kind of funding from us. I do not get grants. I'm a 501c4, which is for social reform.
So you do all this.
I'm a single mom that.
You're a single mom.
Yeah. And I've donated out. I can't
donated out quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
You go to court on your own accord to help families.
I started to charge a little bit now so that I can get there and back, but there's no comparison to what I spend.
Oh, I could only imagine. So. You're doing this from, I believe God put this in your heart to do, to help save thousands of millions, possibly millions of families, and to get this corrected, because I know it's a number one thing that's been on my wife's heart also is this child trafficking and the slavery. And we just heard about one that was involved in that died in jail. It's absolutely horrific, and it runs all the way to the top. So how can, with all the resources, I'm very big on, well, wait a minute, we got to help people like you. So how can people out there right now, and I'm appealing to you right now, that she's going to give you how you can donate whatever you can to this nonprofit that could help her. How do they do that? They
they-
go online?
Yeah, they can go to, YouTube, punish the number 4 protecting. There's a donate button there. And donate, and that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, there you go. You know what you got to do. Now, I'd like to know what this treaty, peace treaty, whatever, peace treaty, whatever it is, 2020. Tell us about
so
that.
Treaty of Peace 2020, I actually had webinar classes for about a year through Zoom, and we had different people on there that were teaching arbitration, and this was already in the works behind the scenes. And also, you can go to my website and you can watch the videos that I've transferred over from Hudak, Phil Hudak. He did an excellent one the other night, which is on my YouTube channel, where you can understand what happened, what was won, how it was won, the process that they went through, so you can understand how legitimate this is and how they won the award. Mr. Hudak won the award for himself and for all people, which this means is that if you opt in, by the time you get the opt-in in your hand, the award in your own hand, if you were to be pulled over, if a cop made a mistake and pulled you over, you are almost like a diplomat. I mean, your plates will say so, and you will be free. You will be free from these family courts. You'll be free from civil courts. You'll be free from that system. I don't want to put too much out there. I'd rather they watch the video so they can understand it, because it's important that you understand your freedom, your free will. The Bible talks about we have free will, but many times man's free will burdens our free will, suppresses our free will. If one family member wants a divorce and the other doesn't, the one that wants to stand and do the right thing by God, their free will is always violated. So it's like that with everything in this world, right? It's like that with our children. Their free will to steal your children is being violated. Now your free will is free to be free. Isn't that wonderful?
That's wonderful.
I mean, think about it. That's what God really wants for us. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So
you explained quite a few things on process and what to do, on who to call, who to contact. Your website, how they can donate, and all these. How about telling a couple of stories on how ugly this could be? Because people want to be aware that it has an effect them, and they're not aware of what happens when something like this happens. Can you give a couple of illustrations? And take your time doing it. This is important for them to understand exactly. You said the process. You said what steps they could do, but what happened?
okay.
What happened? What actually?
I mean,
happened?
I have families all over the country. I have families here in New York right now. I'm hoping to go see a couple children before I leave. I am a few hours away from here, that have been brutally abused through the system. So I live this every day. I see the children. When I talk before legislators and so on, I'm like, I see the children. I talk to the children. The children don't have a voice. They need a voice, and they should be able to speak. They see everything in this world today. Anything goes in this world, but God forbid they talk about what's happening to them within this quote-unquote family court system. Okay, then all of a sudden everybody's up in arms about it, and they want to keep it confidential. That's not fair, and that's not right. They want to hide what they're doing. They don't want to keep it confidential. So what I see all the time is I've seen high volumes in the thousands, probably uncountable amounts of children that have been killed in foster care. I see children through family court that have been placed with a parent that has a clear record of domestic violence, drug addiction, all kinds of stuff, where they're abused in that home. And they want to go home to their safe parent, and they're not allowed to. Or the safe parent is supervised and kept from them, and they're all silenced. It is horrible and barbaric. And this is the reason that I gave up my job 3 years ago to continue to fight for this, because once, you know what, it's Terry LaPointe. She was a part of our team. She says something so true. I can no longer unsee what I've already seen. And it's so our consciences must move forward and do what we have to do to save these children and families. This is the reason that the advocates that I know and the advocates that I work with literally sacrifice everything they have. They sacrifice eating. I'm not kidding with you. They don't have their cell phone bills paid sometimes because they've given up work to do this 25/8, not 24/7, 25/8. Children are being abused all over our country just by taking a child and asking questions later. You have harmed them irreparably. Okay, that's not just sex trafficking, that's just the initial harm of taking them from their loving family and then checking out the case later to find out if or not they were abused. And when they really are abused, they leave them in those homes. So, I mean, I can go on and on. If I could take you with me for one day and follow me around and see the amount of children and families I deal with all over this country and the stories I listen to every single day, and I try to dedicate my time listening to the families to get to the bottom of it and bridge the gap of communication that does not exist in these family courts because they're not allowed to speak, you would say, oh my goodness, I have to do something about this.
On the children that get recovered or back to the families, is there a process on the healing that they need to go through, or therapy or something like that from the trauma? I mean, they must go through double the amount, I don't know, that the parents go through.
I would say, and I think that a lot of times, as long as they stay in the stable home, then they can get the healing they need. Of course, if they're a Christian family and they can get Christian counseling and prayer, of course, we know that God frees you and heals you. We know that, but not every child has that. Not every child gets that. Not every mother and father gets that, sadly. So, you know, we need to embrace them as Christians. At the same time, when they get bounced back and forth from the healthy home to the unsafe home, from the healthy home to the unsafe home, you will see the child. They're just kind of all over the place. And you have to be able to be anointed to work with that child, right? You have to be able to know how to counsel with that child that's bouncing back and forth from safe to unsafe, because they don't understand what's happening to them. And they're supposed to love both parents. They're supposed to. And it's very foreign to them because this is so unnormal, not normal, you know, but.
I mean, it's just beyond imagination, what you're hearing right now. It's just incredible. But there's gotta be some like rewards to this. Can you give some good success stories so the people out there get some hope and say, oh my goodness, so what she's working on, it's working.
Right.
Let's support this woman. Let's support the cause. So
well,
tell
I mean,
some of your best stories out
I was
there.
probably one of the worst cases because the judge purposely attacks me and wants me gone. So my child was taken out of retaliation. I reported him for 70 cases of child abuse, and he took my child, and I have him back. So I think I'm a pretty good encouraging story, and my book is a huge testimony, and it's a thin book to read. I made it simple for people to see how to win, so to speak.
What's the name of that book?
Punish for Protecting the Injustice System of Family Court. I have families here, like the one I'm going to visit, we're leaving them nameless, but she has her daughters back, praise God, and we have to keep a lot of families private and confidential because, like I said, we do get attacked viciously on social media. So sometimes we have to keep the stories quiet.
Why are they attacking you on social?
I believe that there's almost like a culture of groups that are put out there and just bashed so that you're distracted from what's really happening. This is a very serious issue. There is nothing in this world more important than what's happening to our families being child trafficked or just trafficked, like I said. And they want to hide it, so they want to make you out to be like a fraud or make you out to be something that you're not because they don't want you telling the truth because the truth expels the darkness. So they don't want that. So we see this in social media. This is one of the things that I had to overcome because I had no idea that this was going to be part of my attack. You know, I didn't know that that was part of what we're attacking, so to speak, and that's what's used. So we do keep some of the stories quiet. A lot of the stories are on social media. We want to thank President Trump actually because right now President Trump is going after all the child trafficking. Matter of fact, he was doing that before he became president.
Is that right?
Yes, and so because of a lot of the work that we're doing before Congress, and a lot of it has gotten to President Trump, and President Trump is going after this system, and I believe that's why they're
I'm glad you brought that up because it's the first time I heard that.
Yeah.
How come we don't hear some of the good things or a lot of good things that our president is doing right now?
I mean, I think I see it more now that there's a lot of attack against him to distract the public from the truth because the infiltration, okay, like the social media infiltration, the infiltration in politics. I'll give you an example. I spoke to the Department of Justice and the FBI last night. Their evil hand is right in the cookie jar. Okay. This does go up the food chain, all the way up the food chain. That's why when you go to all these different places, they tell you they have no jurisdiction. When you hear I have no jurisdiction, you probably would like to take a baseball bat and just break the table right in half because it's so infuriating because then you're telling me that there is no real authority, is there, in our country? If they don't have a jurisdiction, who does?
Especially the FBI. I thought they have jurisdiction everywhere.
So I can just kind of leave that at that.
Oh, boy.
We have the jurisdiction, though, and that's what really I think God wants to tell America, to tell His people. We are supposed to subdue this earth. We are supposed to be the people of authority here. And so if we keep handing it over to man, it's not working. I like to say to people, how's that working for you?
That's right.
Okay? So what do we need to do to revamp this?
That's
What do we
right.
need to do? And I say abolish and arrest, and let's keep cleaning house. Let's keep draining. He says drain the swamp. I say drain the sewage, because the swamp has some living animals in it.
Right.
This is disgusting, and it needs to be completely destroyed.
I'd say I'm blown away by this story, absolutely blown away, and you all should be also out there. You know what to do. You know how you can help. You know how you can prevent it. We went through all the steps here with Francesca, and she explained it from A to Z. The horrors involved, the benefits involved, the tremendous victories that we can have over. This is, to me, pure evil. Pure evil. And we need to address this. We need to fight this. We need to stand up for what's right. We need to help these families. We need to protect these children. And that, to me, is rewarding in itself. One last word from you?
I have celebrities coming to me for the past several weeks. I have one main celebrity that was literally arrested in a domestic violence shelter.
Oh.
I do have rights to speak her name, if that's okay. Because
Yes.
I actually have assigned, her name is Trinisha Biggers. She's a WWE wrestler.
Okay.
And while she was in, she's right here in New York right now too, and we're praying to God she'll be out by tomorrow. Her children were taken, and I have the protection order that is dated now, current, where her child was placed with the abuser who beat her to unconscious. And not only did he beat her to unconscious, but the child's name is on the protection order, that the child can't be near him within 100 feet. I spoke to his parole officer yesterday to even verify what I have in front of me document-wise. And to top it all off, they not only took her from a DV shelter and arrested the mother, but they took the child and placed the child with the person who there's a protection order to protect the child from, okay?
Incredible. Incredible. We're out of time now. I want to thank you so much. You know what to do. You heard the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, and what you should do. Punished for protecting on YouTube. Okay? Take it from there. Let's get started. Let's help her out. You see what the benefits and the rewards and what we should do as human beings. I mean, I can't say it any clearer than that. My God. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on board. Here we are. We got her, best-selling author. On top of it, we broke the story first. God bless you all for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.